Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the Phoenix Dragon and got Harem? Part 1. Huge shout out to X10 a Shadow Fox for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. The underworld, a place where the human souls of the damned were sent for committing the most sinister sins. A chaotic and vile place that made all the disgraced souls suffer for all of eternity in brims of fire, torture and such. And the rulers of this world were the hideous creatures that feasted on such souls. They were the devils. Of course, that is what the Bible, that the God of Christianity, used to describe the realm of darkness. Devils are, in fact, very human-looking creatures, except that they were immortal beings with demonic magical abilities and other traits. To the devils, the underworld was their home and was nothing like what the Holy Bible has described it. The underworld actually had forests, cities, towns and such, no ocean. But of course, there is an order where all the devils were ruled by four very powerful, very great devils known as the four great Satans. But below these Satans, there exist 34 noble families. Before there was 34, there have been 72 families known to all as the 72 pillars. The reason there are now 34 families is because most of the other families have perished from the Great War, fighting against both God and his angel faction and the fallen angel faction known as Grigori. Now among these family exists a unique family who governed both fire and wind, whose bodies were similar to the legendary creature of immortal. The family is known as the Phenex family, named after the great Phoenix of legend. In this family, there was one interesting child who was still deep asleep in his luxurious bed. Although as he slept he was starting to wake up because of an annoyance. The annoyance being that someone was pounding on his bedroom door. As he continued to ignore it, his bedroom door opened to reveal a young girl no older than 3 years old. She had dark blue eyes and blonde curly hair. She wore an elegant toddler-sized dress. Once inside, she toddled her way towards the bed where she climbed on it. She then made it directly towards the center where she then started to jump up and down on it. "Nai-san. Wake up," she repeated several times before the young boy finally rose from the bed. Alright, Ravel, I'm up, the older brother replied. "Come on Naruto Nai-san, it's time to play," Ravel cheerfully said. Okay, but first let me get some breakfast," Naruto said. Ravel nodded in agreement as she hopped out of bed and left the room. Being fully awake now, Naruto decided to get out bed, freshen up, and get some breakfast. Walking over to his private bathroom, he got himself ready. Naruto Phenex is a young 7-year-old blonde boy and is the fourth son of the Phenex family. Naruto's room is a large room that is big as an apartment studio. It had all the basic furniture such as a desk, cabinet, drawers, bookcases and the current home entertainment system, along with his bed and bathroom. Once he was freshen up, Naruto was wearing his regular type of clothing, an orange short-sleeved shirt, blue shorts, and a pair of sneakers. Walking out of his room, he glanced at his radio clock to see that it was 10 in the morning. Evening. After a day of entertaining Ravel, Naruto and his little sister walked towards the dining hall for dinner. Once he had breakfast, Naruto found Ravel where the two hung out for the day, doing whatever Ravel wanted to do. Playing both physical and strategic games, Naruto was glad that the day was over, since playing with Ravel was fun but still tiring. Arriving at the dining room, both spotted their family. Sitting at the head of the table was their father, Lord Phenex, head of the Phenex family. Sitting on his right side was their mother, Layla Phenex, also known as Lady Phenex. On his left, his oldest brother, Ruvel Phenex, the current heir of the Phenex family along with his wife. Sitting next to their mother was the third eldest brother, Rias Phenex, age 15. Their entire family had waited for the youngest children of the family where they made their way towards their respected seats. Naruto sat next to Ruvel's wife, while Ravel sat next to Rias. Once everyone was at the table, the family had dinner. While eating, Naruto could see that his father and mother were, secretly, eyeing him for some reason. Naruto knew that out of all the members of the Phenex family, he was the most different, appearance-wise. Like the rest of the Phenex family, he had blonde hair, but his was wilder and spikier, and had ear-length bangs framing either side of his face, unlike the rest of the men in the family whose hair was short and tamed. Along with the hair, he had sapphire eyes while everyone in the family had dark blue eyes. The biggest difference between him and the rest of his family was that his face. His brothers looked like their father with some bits of their mother, while Ravel looked exactly like their mother with a few characteristics from Lord Phenex. Naruto didn't. Finishing dinner, Lord Phenex got his family's attention where he looked at his youngest son. "Naruto, tomorrow you'll be coming along with me and you mother," Lord Phenex stated. "What do you mean, father? Where are we going?" Naruto asked. "You'll be coming with us to visit the Gremory family," Lord Phenex replied. "Why am I going with you too?" the young boy asking again. Lord Phenex explained that it was necessary for him to meet up with other devil families, just like his older siblings did when they were at his age. Naruto wasn't interested in visiting other families, since he thought it was going to be boring, since it was going to be an adult thing. His mother then told him that the Gremory has a young girl around his age, so he won't be too bored. After a bit of speaking, Naruto agreed where Lord Phenex told Rias to watch over Ravel for the day, because Naruto was going with them. Early afternoon. Traveling using teleportation magic in a noble carriage, Naruto along with his parents made their way towards the Gremory Manor. Being bored during the travel, the young blonde Phenex leapt halfway through the carriage. He was suddenly shaken a bit as Naruto groggily opened his eyes to see his mother looking at him. Lady Phenex told him to properly fix himself since they're close to arriving to the Gremory Manor. 5 minutes later, the Phenex family arrived at the front of the giant castle, where they had an entourage to greet them. Stepping out of the carriage, they were greatly greeted by the guards, maids, and butlers of the Gremory family where they were then led into the mansion. Entering in the castle's main entrance, Naruto saw several family members which he guessed was the Gremory family. Taking a good look, Naruto saw each member of the family in front of him. The first was a middle-aged looking man with crimson hair and goatee. He wore a stylish white tuxedo with black shoes. Next to him is a beautiful young woman in her late teens with shoulder-length brown hair. She wore a cream-colored dress that reached just above her ankles. Standing, a bit away from the two was another man who is quite handsome and has the appearance of a 20-year-old who also had crimson hair. By his side, another beautiful woman appeared to be in her early 20s with silver hair and matching eyes. Her hair flowed all the way down to her back and features a long braid on each side with small blue bows at the ends. She is wearing a blue and white French-made outfit with long sleeves and a white-made headband over her head. The only added visible feature was the red lipstick on her lips. The only person that caught Naruto's attention the most was the one that looked to be around the same age as him. A young girl with crimson locks, like the men, that reached her shoulder blades and is wearing a cream-colored dress like the brunette woman. Walking up to them, the older-looking man walked up to the Phenex family. "Greetings my friends of the Phenex family. I hope you had a safe trip here." The crimson hair man greeted them. "Greetings to you, Lord Gremory and Lady Gremory." Lord Phenex happily replied, "The trip was pleasant." He answered. Lord Phenex then turned his attention to the other crimson hair man. "It's an honor as always Lord Lucifer." "It's a pleasure as well Lord Phenex. Although this time you seem to have another child with you. Who might this be?" Lucifer asked as he looked down at Naruto, who didn't show any emotion. Getting a quick nudge from his mother, Naruto walked forward towards Lucifer. Everyone was staring at the young blonde since he was going to be giving the current title holder of Lucifer and ruler of all the underworld his greeting which many believed was to be a respectable and proper gesture like any high-class devil would know. Lazily lifting his hand, Naruto waved at Sasuke's, "Yo." He simply said. "Ow." Naruto cried out as a visible lump formed over his head. Cradling his new headache, he looked at his mother, whom gave him a mild glare with a raised fist. "Naruto, you're in the presence of a Satan, be more polite." Lady Phenex lectured lightly. Hearing this, Naruto straightened himself, coughed into his hand to clear his voice. He looked back at Sasuke's, "Yo, how's it going?" he said as he lazily waved him back like the last time. "Ow. Again. Why you hit me?" I asked how he's doing. Naruto cried out as he cradled his now second lump on his head, curtsy from his mother. Lady Phenex sighed as she shook her head at her son's antics. Before she can even lecture her son again, the sudden sound of laughter could be heard ringing out into the room. All of the occupants looked to see Sasuke laughing and wiping away a tear. "Ha ha ha, I like him already." Lord Gremory coughed into his hand to both clear his voice and get everyone's attention. "Well anyway, seeing as you introduced your son, I would like to introduce my daughter." Where his gaze moved towards the small red-headed girl, "Rias if you please," suggested the elder Gremory. The now named Rias stepped forward, giving a light curtsy. "Hello, my name is Rias Gremory, I'm 5 years old and heiress to the Gremory family." Introducing herself to everyone. Lord Phenex looked pleased at this where he made his voice known. "Now with the introductions out of the way, I think we should get to the topic at hand." Where Lord Gremory agreed. Deciding for a more comfortable setting, Lord Gremory led everyone towards to an appropriated room. Walking inside the meeting room, filled with table and seats, Lord Gremory offered seats to their guests which they happily accepted. Once everyone was comfortable, both families looked at each other. "Now let's talk about the topic that we discussed before." Lord Phenex started off. "Yes, the joining of our families," said Lord Gremory with a smile. Naruto was really curious now, with his raised eyebrow being the only visible proof of it. Now despite being young, Naruto isn't stupid since he knew that the joining of two families usually means one of two options: take over another family or arrange marriage between the two families, which he started to have a bad feeling about it. So it's agreed then, the youngest son of the Phoenix family, Naruto Phenex, and heiress of the Gremory family, Rias Gremory, are officially arranged to be married. Lord Phenex proudly announced. 3 years later. Outside the Phoenix Manor, Naruto was lying on the ground, panting heavily, as he relaxed in the family's training area. Around him, the training area showed signs of destruction as there are disturbed mounds of earth, scars, and slices on the nearby wood or rocks. Lying on the ground, he thought about what happened a few years ago. Flashback. All of the Gremory workers' employees continued with their own assignment chores when all of a sudden they all heard a loud voice all over the castle that stopped them for a moment. What? In the meeting room, where both the Gremory and Phoenix families were in, looked over to see Naruto's stunned face as he looked both paled and a ghostly figure of himself was leaking out his mouth. Naruto, what's wrong? Lord Phenex bewilderedly asked. Snapping out his trance, Naruto looked back at his father with disbelief look, like why he was even asking that question. What's wrong? You just decided who I'm going to spend my life with. Taking a few moments to breathe, why me? He asked. Being quiet throughout the whole time looked surprised to see Naruto's reaction. Surziches looked insulted as he stood up and pounded the table with both his hands. What do you mean by why me? How can you reject my cute little sister, who is the cutest little girl in all the underworld? Surziches remarked. Naruto realized what he said where he looked at the leader of underworld. That's not what I meant. I've got nothing against her, it's just this situation I guess. Naruto the young blonde heard where he turned to see his mother's gaze. You have a chance here to unite two of the major families. Don't waste this opportunity. We're placing a lot of responsibility on you, so trust us. Lady Phoenix finished with a small smile. Oh yeah, marrying me off to a stranger, I feel so much better now. Naruto sarcastically muttered to himself. Lady Gremory decided to add something with a playful wink. You never know, you two may come to like each other as more than friends. Naruto was about to respond to Lady Gremory, but Lord Gremory quickly cut in. Rias, why don't you take Naruto on a tour around the estate? Asking his young daughter. The young crimson-haired girl's face brightened up since she was getting bored in this meeting, plus she would also get the opportunity to make a new friend. Getting up and skipping over to Naruto, she literally dragged him out of the room by his arm. Come on Naruto, I've got loads of places to show you. What? Is all he said before Rias started to drag him out of the meeting room. No, wait. Gah. I wasn't finished yet. Help. Naruto hysterically cried out as he was being pulled out of the meeting. He even made the attempt to claw in his fingers directly at the door, where his fingernails clawed through the thick wood for all those to see. Once they left, the adults shared a laugh as both Lady Gremory and Phoenix muttered out, "Oh young love." Well, both fathers couldn't help but pity the boy in a way since he now had a leash around his neck. Then flashback. Ever since then, Naruto and Rias started to hang out with each other, where they soon started to have a pretty good friendship between each other. Of course, it helped break the ice between them when they both shared an embarrassing secret with each other. Flashback. Being led around the entire castle, Rias decided the first stop would be in her room. Naruto has stopped his attempts to free himself where he just settled on traveling with Rias. Entering the room, Naruto saw something that made him look surprised, stunned at what Rias' room was like. All over the room, posters, movies, books with anime and manga stuff were pilled all over. Naruto looked impressed on the fact that she had this much anime and mange stuff, even though he never got into it much. So what do you think? Rias cheerfully asked him, who was standing next to her. Naruto simply muttered out, "Otaku." The moment he said that, he looked to Rias where she just suddenly disappeared. He looked around where he found the redhead princess hiding under the covers of her bed. You probably think I'm weird, don't you? Rias muttered from under her covers. Probably if I have standards. If anything, you probably be considered normal while I'm the weird one, considering that I have a strong obsession for ramen and can eat 3 times my own weight of it. Naruto admitted to her. Rias uncovered her head to look at the blonde boy where she looked at him curiously. He confessed that he was so obsessed with the food that his mother had to restrict him from eating so much of the stuff that he had to make secret compartments and such in order for him to have it as a secret snack or meal. Hearing Naruto's confession, Rias started to giggle at him. You're right, you are weirder than me, she confessed to him. Then flashback. Since that time, he visited Rias regularly where they both started to grow a really strong friendship towards each other. His thoughts about his relationship with Rias stopped since he started to stand back up, but barely. Taking another deep breath, he started to work on creating his new move, even though his body was screaming for him to stop training. The reason why he was working so hard was because of a condition that he has that no one in his family has. Naruto Phenex, the son of the current Lord Phenex, didn't inherit both the flame and instant healing ability that the rest of his family had. It was only after a couple of weeks from visiting Rias and the Gremory family that, during one lesson from his mother, they all found out something very disturbing. Before visiting the Gremory family, Lord and Lady Phenex decided to start training Naruto in wielding his magic, where he excelled in learning the basics of his demonic power. During the lesson, Naruto got seriously injured, where everyone believed that Naruto would instantly heal up since he was a member of the Phoenix family, but to his family's shock, Naruto wasn't instantly healing, regenerating from the injury into his shoulder. Using Phoenix tears to heal him, his parents asked him to perform a fire attack where they showed him how. Naruto had tried several times, but he wasn't able to perform any fire attacks. Although he didn't perform any fire magic, he was able to perform strong wind magic that their family was also known for. Being examined over, Naruto and the rest of the family found out that Naruto was the only Phoenix that didn't inherit the Phoenix ability of fire or instant healing. Naruto was saddened since he can't live up to the rest of his family's heritage, but was surprised to know that he does have a healing ability in both his physical and tears. Taking a closer look, Naruto's physical ability showed that he has a strong healing ability, just extremely slow, where it would take several minutes for him to heal from a scrape on his elbow or knees. Longer for more serious injuries. Although his healing ability was slow, it showed to be a lot stronger, where Beelzebub himself studied both his body and his tears. Naruto's healing ability might be slower than the rest of the Phoenix, but it showed that he actually has an immunity resistance to several strong poisons that would normally kill a devil, such as the poison of the nine-headed Hydra, where even his tears also held the same type of quality, which makes it even rare. Phoenix tears can heal injuries such as severed arms or mortal wounds. However, Naruto's tears are a lot more special. Naruto's tears doesn't heal instantly like regular Phoenix tears, instead it regenerates a person's body to being 100% back to health, where even the loss of organs are regenerated, while also healing the person from a very powerful poison. It's because of this that even Surzich's queen, Graphia, personally suggested that Naruto's tears be made classified even to the elders' advisors, since information leaks might cause problems for the young boy, along with having a bottle of his tears in case of extreme emergency for the four Satans if needed. But the secret of his tears being classified by everyone except to him, his parents and Lord Lucifer and Beelzebub along with their most trusted associates, every other devil family considered Naruto to be extremely weak and such. They only ever heard of this during the parties that his parents were invited, where he came along with them as their own acquaintance. Even though several head families and other high-level devils kept it quiet from him, he had incredible hearing, where he heard that he wasn't anything special. Several times, he was tempted to reveal his secret abilities, but had to keep it quiet. He was also bullied by his older brother, Rias, where he teased and called him names, as well as telling him on how much a disgrace or failure he was to the family. Naruto was really depressed about it, where Rias cheered him up, where he learned about her cousin Sarah Bale. Hearing his story along with what he was planning on doing, he was inspired to the same thing, where he spent the next several years on training himself to ground. In 3 years' time, Naruto has completely changed as a person. Naruto has become a lot stronger as a person, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Naruto has learned to ignore all the taunting and such, while only listening to the praises he earned through his hard work. He has grown to be a cunning and smart individual, where he even defeated his friend, Sona Citri, who he met through Rias in chess. Although he was considered to be book smart, he was a prodigy when it came to combat. His martial arts skills were way above average, where he trained with several of any of Rias's or other of his family's peerage members, being able to hold his own against Ubeluna, Shulin, and Isabella for example. His skills in handling weaponry were also high up in the specs, as he used either kunai, a katana, or chains. His physical abilities were among high, his magical abilities is what made him be known as a prodigy. Unable to use his family's fire ability to either attack or fly, since the Phoenix family wings are fire, he learned from both his mother and father all the wind magic that they know, which was few, since the Phoenix family primarily use fire magic in their fights, while adding wind to strengthen it. Soon mastering the basics, Naruto focused on increasing them to new heights, where he did everything to increase his strength, along with also trying to find a better use in using his demonic powers. In the 3 years, Naruto has surprised his family by creating several new wind attacks for himself, such as Majestic no Keno Funsai, Crushing Fist of Majestic Wind. He also found a way to change his inability to fly when he mastered Shundo, Instant Movement. Instant movement allowed him to temporarily increase his maximum speed by using his magic to triple it for a short burst, where he used it to fight against his brother's evil pieces to win. With Shundo as the basis, he thought of the output, where he then moved on, where he mastered Koku Shundu, Void Instant Movement, to help him move in the air with incredible speed that he helped him keep up with his own brother, Rias, when he sparred against him. Lord and Lady Phenex had openly said to him that they were proud of their son adaptation, since, even with the disability he was presented with, Naruto was able to improve through leaps and bounds to become a very strong symbol for the Phoenix family. Even though he was able to improve himself to greater heights, he knew that he needed more in order to fulfill his dream on becoming a Satan, which led him to his current time right now. Naruto studied up where he learned about the demonic magic that every devil possess. However, no one knew what the purest form of the demonic magic does, since all devils add their signature element into it. Such as Grafia using her demonic magic to create ice, while Sona uses her to create water and so forth. Naruto wondered if there was a way to create attacks with just the purest form of demonic magic, without adding the element to it where he tried to figure it out. It wasn't till he recalled from watching an anime show with Rias how the character used his Kai to create a ball, although mentally he thought about it, since the ball of energy made him feel like he was familiar with it. This led him to see if he can do the same thing. For over a year, he's been working on creating his newest attack, where he was able to get it started by using water balloons, rubber balls, and air balloons. Rasengan training. Using the water balloon, Naruto used his demonic energy to pop it, which took him over 2 months. Popping the rubber balloon was much more difficult, where he pushed himself for nearly 5 months before he got it. Finally, the air balloon is where he was as he tried to control the demonic energy without breaking the thin material while pouring in 100%. So far, he hasn't made any progress, where he was stuck for the past 3 months on trying to create his technique. He would ask his parents for help, but Naruto wanted this to be a secret. Just as he was about to try and perform his technique, a sudden pillar of flames appeared next to him. He wasn't bothered by it since he was used to his family making such a flashy entrance. Naruto waited for a moment before the pillar dissipated to reveal his mother. "Mother, why are you here?" Naruto asked. "Your father and I have decided that it was now a good time for you to visit the Earth, since you'll have to go there soon if you wanted to find your future peerage. Lady Phenex." Naruto was surprised that he will be going to the human world. Getting over his surprise, Lady Phenex told him that he has an hour to get ready, since she'll be taking him to the Earth today, where she'll be taking him to England. 2 years later. Out in the Phenex family estate, the sounds of fighting could be heard around the training area. The sounds were created by 2 boys sparring against each other. The 2 are Naruto Phenex and his best friend, Sarayer Bale. The 2 were currently having one of their 2-month spar sessions. Both boys were fighting using only their physical strengths, such as strength and speed. The only difference was that Naruto was using his magic to increase both his strength and speed to be on even ground with Sarayer. Naruto and Sarayer's friendship started off rocky when they first met. They first met each other when Naruto visited Rias, where Sarayer and his mother also visited when he was 9 years old. Rias introduced the 2, but Sarayer's attitude wasn't that welcoming, since he believed that Naruto was one of those devils that look down on others, where he pushed Naruto's annoyance to the limit. Soon their arguments changed when the 2 boys started fighting each other outside the Grimoire Castle. Rias tried to stop them, but couldn't, where she went off to find her mother or someone. Before she did, Rias was stopped when out of nowhere, Surziches caught her. The reason he stopped her is to explain to her that sometimes boys settled their differences with their fists rather than their words. They both fought furiously at each other, where, by the end, both boys were lying on the ground. It was only after that the 2 actually started talk to each and soon became friends, where Naruto explained that like Sarayer, who couldn't use the Bale family's power of destruction, he can't use the flames of the Phoenix family to attack, fly, or to recover from any injuries. Once they got to know each other more, the 2 became pretty good friends, where they challenge each other every couple of weeks to 2 months after they trained themselves. But the final roar of action, the spar that the 2 have been doing, has now ended. In the middle of the training field, Naruto laid on the ground, where across from him laid Sarayer, the rightful heir of the Bale family. As the 2 laid on their backs, the sounds of running footsteps were coming to their aid. For Sarayer, a young girl with blonde hair tied in a ponytail came to his side to see if he was alright. For Naruto, 2 young girls came to his side. The first girl is a young 14-year-old girl that had hazel eyes with cat-like pupils and black shoulder-length hair with split bangs, with an ornately detailed headband on her head. She wore a black kimono with a red interior that opened at her shoulders that showed her developing body. The biggest feature she had was the fact that she had a pair of black cat ears and a single black tail. The second girl was a 10-year-old with long blonde hair and hazel yellow eyes. She wore a green short-sleeved dress that stopped just above her knees with brown sandals. Her biggest feature was the fact that she had elf ears. "Naruto-sama, are you okay?" asked the elf ear girl out of concern. "Yeah, I'm fine. Nothing that a little R&R would help," Naruto replied. "That sounds like a plan, Naru-kun. But I think it's best we get the Phoenix tears, since you got very important appointment with Beelzebub today, an appointment that I and Shizu have been waiting for a while now," said the black cat ear girl with a hint of desperation. Realization set in motion, where the young Phoenix instantly got back up. "Ah. That's right, today's the day I finally get my evil pieces, which means I can also make you 2 be part of my peerage, Kuroka and Shizuka," he reminded himself. These two are Naruto's friends where he met the two of them in a different situation than they are now. Receiving the Phoenix tears that Shizuka had with her where she ministered its contents to both him and Saraerg. Once their injuries were healed, Naruto apologized to Saraerg since he needed to end today's visit because of his appointment with Beelzebub. Accepting the apology, both boys called it a day where Naruto went to his room to clean himself up. Once he was ready, he went to his parents where he said that he'll be leaving now to meet up with Beelzebub. "Naruto, do you want me or any of our peerage members to go with you? It would be understandable since you'll be meeting Lord Beelzebub for the first time," Lady Phenex said. Naruto looked both confident and determined as he replied, "That's alright, mother. I'll be bringing Kuroka and Shizuka with me since I would make them part of my peerage immediately. Plus, I want to show that I'm strong enough to go out by myself without being babied or anything like that," with a smirk on his face. Lord Phenex looked pleased since Naruto showed that, even though he didn't have the fire magic of the Phoenix, he definitely had the spirit of the family. "Alright then Naruto, good luck on getting your evil pieces. There's a car that will take you to Beelzebub's lab," Lord Phenex said, which Naruto thanked his father. He left home and entered the car with Kuroka and Shizuka, where the vehicle started to move where the three children enjoyed the drive. As Kuroka and Shizuka chatted with each other about the spar that Naruto just had with Saraerg, Naruto thought about the two girls. Naruto met Kuroka over 2 years ago, just a couple of months later after he met Saraerg. Naruto was training around his personal territory that his family have given to him since he was a high-class devil. Each family in the remaining 34 pillars have a large territory that they own, such as the Gremory family. His entire family territory is roughly the same size of Honshu in Japan. Naruto inherited a small piece of his family's land, roughly the size of Austria. For some reason, he felt at home when he was out on the wilderness. Using his speed and agility, he leapt through tree rock and vice versa of his terrain with incredible skill. As he ran around, he arrived at a waterfall that was on his territory. He greatly liked how elegant the waterfall gives to the area, but his pleasant feelings suddenly turned into caution as he sensed someone or something. Cautiously looking around since he was curious on who it is, since if it was a creature on the hunt, it would have attacked already given how he stood in an open area for a sneak attack. With no animals attacking him, Naruto figured that it was some type of person or intelligent creature that was just hiding for safety reasons. Looking around, he stopped as he decided to use his wind magic to feel around the area. It was only when he felt the air shifting around near the waterfall, Naruto went to check it out. He found a large cave being hidden behind some rock formations. Deciding to investigate it, he moved directly towards it. It was when he was about to step into the cavern that he was attacked. Barely evading a claw strike before he jumped back. He looked in front of him where he met Kuroka, with the same clothing just a bit rough-upped. Before he could even ask, Kuroka attacked Naruto where he also engaged at her as well. Fighting Kuroka wasn't easy since Kuroka was very dangerous, especially since she used her hands as claws, while also having the agility of a cat, since she was a Nekomata. They both fought very furiously against each other, before Naruto won out where he put Kuroka in a submission move that avoided her from using her claws and mouth to scratch or bite. Betting her to calm down, Naruto asked on why she attacked him, or for the matter on why she was so focused from stopping him from entering the cave. The answer came out in the form of another Nekomata, in the form of a small white-haired girl. Figuring it out the reason, without being told anything from the girl's side, Naruto explained that he was wondering on who was stalking him, where he figured it was her. Kuroka confessed that she was worried that he was going to attack her little 6-year-old little sister from getting hurt. Knowing the truth as well as the worried scared look that the little white-haired Nekomata was giving him, Naruto released her where he explained that he wasn't going to do anything to her and that he was just going to leave once he found out the truth. Hearing no dissipation from him, the girl was thankful that her worries were nothing, but then heard, introducing himself, that he was from the Phoenix family and that she was living in his territory without permission, which he wanted to know. Kuroka explained how they just recently lost their mother where she was now taking care of the both of them on her own. Hearing this, Naruto agreed to let them stay in his territory where he even gave her his insignia in case anyone else came. For the next 2 months, Naruto visited Kuroka and her little sister, Shirin, where he and Kuroka had fun together, while Shirin would eat the sweets or treats that Naruto would bring them. After some time, Naruto had asked Kuroka to become part of his peerage where, once hearing all the benefits, she agreed and if the same offer would be given to Shirin. Naruto explained that it could be a problem since in Nekashu, which are a very rare Nekomata that Kuroka and Shirin are, there could be some problems with him on having both instead of one. Kuroka was worried, but Naruto said that he knows someone who would love to have a little sister as cute as Shirin in her peerage. Kuroka was worried about it, but Naruto assured her that she can visit her every time he went to visit Rias. With that, Kuroka agreed where all three went back to his home, which he surprised his family with his new friends and future peerage member. Flashback. Teleporting into the Phoenix Manor using his magic, Naruto with Kuroka and Shirin standing by his side, he led them through the hallways of his home towards the living room which he hoped that his parents were there. Arriving there, he noticed that not only was his parents, but also his brother, Rias, and sister, Ravel, were with him along with some guests. It was Rias and her brother, along with his queen as well as one more person. It was a young girl with violet eyes and long raven hair that reached down to her back while she wore a pretty violet dress. Making his presence known, everyone turned where his parents welcomed him back while Sasuke cheerfully greeted him like his usual way. Rias jumped out of her seat where she jumped and hugged him. "Hello, Naruto-kun," Rias happily said. "Hey Rias, how's it been? I'm sorry that I haven't visited you in a while and hanging out with Sarah more." Naruto greeted back while also offering her apologies. Rias didn't mind where she said that it gave her a chance to be with her new raven hair friend. Naruto acknowledged her where he introduced himself while the girl introduced herself as Akeno Himejima. "Akeno? That's a nice name," Naruto commented. "Ara thank you Naruto-sama," Akeno said while her cheeks became a bit pink. Before things could get more interesting, Naruto said that he has two people to introduce to everyone where Naruto signaled the two girls to come into the room. Kuroka and Shirin walked forward where Shirin stood behind Kuroka since she was a little nervous. Everyone was curious where Naruto introduced the two to everyone here where Kuroka and Shirin politely greeted them. He explained the story to everyone since they were curious on how he met them. Once he finished explaining, he looked at his parents with glee in his eyes. "Also, Kuroka here has agreed to become a member of my peerage once I get my evil pieces," Naruto stated, which his parents, Sasuke, has congratulated him on picking a strong and rare species of Nekomata. Rias seemed jealous on the fact since his face sneered at how lucky Naruto got a cute Nekomata for himself. Sasuke wondered on about Shirin since there wasn't going to be an issue with Kuroka since it was only one Nekashu that Naruto was planning on turning into a devil, but if he was going to acquire both of them, then it could become a problem. Rias had an idea, which you all already know, add to peerage if any of you didn't guessed, where he made it known to everyone. But before he could say anything, Naruto spoke first where he said that he was hoping if Rias would take her in, since it would give Rias a new member to her growing family peerage, but also assures that Kuroka and Shirin would still be able to find a way to stay close since Naruto and Rias visit each other every following week. The idea was very acceptable where Rias cheerfully accepted while also offering Shirin that she'll take good care of her since she now has an adorable little sister. Sasuke smiled since Rias has gotten another member into her family. Lord and Lady Phoenix deeply approved where they then got some servant to show Kuroka a room for her to live in where she smiled at the thought, the same thing Sasuke said to Graphia since Shirin was going to live with Rias from now on. Since then, things has gotten better for the Nekomata sisters. Then flashback. He also recalled how his brother Rias wanted Naruto to trade Kuroka to him which he denied it immediately since he knew his brother was up to something which he even got his mother involved when Rias had forcefully been trying to change Kuroka's mind and joining his peerage instead of Naruto. Soon after Kuroka moved in with him, things for the two have been fun. Naruto and Kuroka trained together where they improved little by little. Kuroka also gets the chance to visit Shirin, who took up the name Kaneko Taoju as a sign of her new beginnings, but will still respond to Shirin from Kuroka only. Although, having Kuroka was great, he found it a bit uneasy at night where every morning, he always found her sleeping with him wearing a simple shirt while hugging him close to her developing body. A year after meeting Kuroka, he met Shizuka, Shizu for short, who had a similar background as Kuroka, although he met her during one of his trips into the nearest devil city, located in the Phoenix family territory. Flashback. Naruto was walking with his mother into one of the devil cities that was in the Phoenix territory. After an hour of walking around with his mother and her shopping trips with Ravel, he had enough. Seeing a chance to escape, he took it where he had disguised himself as a commoner by stripping away his fancy clothes into his usual attire, shirt, pants and sneakers. Once he was out, he went to the closest forest area away from the city. Leaving the city for a more tranquil 18th century village area, he began exploring. As he walked around he made his way towards the open fields. It was here that he heard some crying in one of the open fields away from the buildings and such. Deciding to investigate it, the blonde Phoenix looked around where he then spotted a small group of boys and girls behind some bushes. As he got closer, he saw that a few of them were from noble families that lived around here. When he was close enough, Naruto saw that they were picking on a blonde girl. Seeing enough of this, Naruto stepped forward, announced his presences while not revealing who he is. Standing up to the bullies, the noble children went up to him where they threatened him which he made a snide remark where things heated up between him and the small group. 5 minutes later, Naruto was standing tall where all the bullies that he fought now laid on the ground. The few that didn't fight him just ran away in fright since the children that Naruto had beaten were the strongest in the area. Walking up to the young girl, he took a close look to see that it was young girl, around the same age as him, 10 years old. The young girl looked timid, but seeing Naruto not only smiling at her but defending her from the bullies, she looked relieved to know that he wasn't going to do anything bad to her. Then flashback. After rescuing her, Naruto invited her to eat something where he was amazed on how much the girl ate. He guessed that she hasn't eaten anything in a while, considering how dirty her clothing were, and guessed that she also doesn't have a home. While eating together, the two kids quickly started to chat with each other, where he learned that her name was Shizuka. Not only did he learn her name, but also the reason why she was being bullied. Shizuka was of devil, human and elf descendant. He wondered about her parents, where she said that she was an orphan for the last 3 years since her parents were dead. She's been living in the streets or in the forests outside the city for that entire time. Naruto felt sorry for her, but could tell that Shizuka is really a strong person to be able to survive that long without any help. Hearing on how tough Shizuka's life has been, Naruto had little doubt in his mind that she could be an amazingly strong person if given the chance to grow and train properly. He formally introduced himself as Naruto Phenex, one of the children from the Phoenix family who was reigning family of the territory she was in. Hearing who he was, Shizuka grew nervous, but was surprised to learn that Naruto offered her a chance to start fresh with a new life for herself by being part of his future peerage. Shizuka wondered on what he meant, where Naruto explained on what a peerage is, where he explained the original and his own version to her, as well as telling her his dream about becoming a Satan. Shizuka was speechless when Naruto offered her a chance to start off new with a new home and being able to become a high-class devil one day if she worked hard enough. She accepted his request, where he took her back toward his mother and sister to introduce her as well as get his punishment over with. Coming back to the Phoenix family, Lady Phenex grounded Naruto for the week with no raiment for 3 months, much to his torment. Getting his punishment over with, Naruto introduced his family to Shizuka, who shyly greeted them. The family was surprised to see that Naruto found another cute girl to join his future peerage. A few months later, after she started living with him, they both found out something interesting. During their studies and such, Shizuka had a natural talent when learning magic, mostly healing magic, along with having a talent with water, wind, and plants. Conjecturing because of her elf blood she must be close to nature because of it. But the thing that she excelled in was learning on medical herbs and potions, so much so that she wants to become the strongest healer in the world. Knowing that, Naruto smiled, since not only does Shizuka have a dream worth achieving, but also knew that any future raiding games, Shizuka's healing spells would be a great asset. His thought stopped when the car stopped its movement, indicating that they've arrived. Stepping out of the car, Naruto, Kuroka, and Shizuka now stood in front of Lord Beelzebub's home. Beelzebub's home is a ruined castle that had destroyed walls inside the protective walls, like the castle of Frankenstein. Walking up towards the main entrance, he announced himself to the doorman, where he acknowledged him. Leading him inside, all three waited for a bit until the Satan was ready. For several minutes, the three children just waited patiently until another servant came and got them to follow him. Walking into Beelzebub's laboratory, they were amazed on how many computers and machines are in it. Getting over the awe feeling, they continued to follow the servant to see Beelzebub. Ajuka Beelzebub was a handsome man in his mid-20s who, like Surziches, was one of the 4 heroes in the anti-Satan faction that prevailed over the old Satan faction. Once the servant escorted them to Ajuka, the person left where the 3 children were now in front of one of the devil leaders. Naruto greeted the Satan leader like he does with any important people he has met in the past. The Ajuka Naruto lazily waved to. Naruto-sama. Shizuka yelped at Naruto since he greeted the Satan leader like he was just another person. Before she can say anything, she heard the Satan leader respond. "Sup Naruto," Ajuka said in kind. "So, do you have my evil pieces ready, Ajuka?" Naruto bluntly wondered, skipping the annoying chit-chat to get to the point. Getting up from his seat that he was in, he led Naruto and the group to a machine. Looking at the blonde Phenex. "It should be a fast process since I already have your data from the tests we did a few years ago. I just need to update your data from 4 years ago to your current status," Ajuka explained. Understanding, Ajuka began to question Naruto, where he answered every question he can. Once it was done, Ajuka activated the machine, where after a few minutes, a set of chess pieces were spit out. Seeing the pieces, Ajuka glanced at Naruto. "Alright, your evil pieces are ready. The only thing left is for you is to spill some of your blood on all of them to make sure that the set will only respond to you and you alone," he said. Naruto nodded in understanding, where he then moved forward, where he looked at his evil pieces before he cut his hand with a blade of wind he conjured to cut his palm and allow his blood to seep out. He moved his bleeding hand over the pieces, where he gripped it firmly to allow his blood to bleed out quicker, spilling onto the chess pieces. As blood flowed down the set, the pieces started to glow a bit before being consumed in his power. Several moments later, which his hands started healing up quickly where he then wiped the blood away with a tissue, his evil pieces were born, gold-covered pieces with small orange-red hot rod flames at the base of each piece with a silver-black lining. Come on, it's not Naruto if there is no orange in it. As he, as well as Kuroka and Shizuka, was viewing his pieces, Ajuka began to explain on how it works. Now, as you see, there are a total of 16 pieces. Every one of them is meant to be used for your peerage, except for this one. Pointing at the king piece. The king piece is for you alone. With the king piece, the other pieces will respond to you. Ajuka stated. Naruto picked the item where it was then absorbed into his flesh. Once it was done, he looked at Ajuka, there, the king is inside me. Out of curiosity though, you said that the other pieces will respond to me. What do you mean by that? Questioning the Satan Lord. You're on your own for that. Ajuka simply answered. Letting it go, Naruto asked about the other pieces and their abilities. Ajuka explained to them simply to the young Phenex. The queen has 9 pawns worth which also has the same characteristics of rook, knight and bishops, along with being second in command after you, since the queen is essentially the king's right hand. The rooks are the powerhouse of the peerage that are worth 5 pawns. Rooks have both high offense and defense yet they're not fast, so their primary weakness are high-speed opponents. The bishops are the pieces gain enhanced magical abilities that can be used to conjure multiple spells for offense, defense, healing, etc. The downside will be that powerful spells will drain the user quicker and have trouble on regaining it back. Knights are worth 3 pawns where the person also gain an increase of speed and agility. They can be useful in performing high-speed attacks, but have low defense where they're weak against powerful attacks, along with legs if they're incapacitated. Finally, the pawns are worth only 1 pawn. The pawn pieces are regular pieces, but have 2 ability to promote into any of the 4 previous pieces in enemy territory, such in raiding games or any of the other factions' territory or getting permission from their king. And that's the basic information I give to you. Just like I said before, the rest is for you to figure it out. Ajuka explained. Nodding in understanding, he'd taken a closer look at his evil pieces, where he saw something funny with 3 of them. Asking Ajuka about it, the Satan Lord looked where he looked somewhat impressed. Now that's a first for me. It seems that you have 3 mutation pieces, 1 rook, bishop, and knight piece. Ajuka answered where he explained to him about it. Mutation pieces are rare phenomenon where the mutation piece would be enough to reincarnate a person instead of having to use several pieces, such as a person might need more than 1 pawn or need both rooks. Now, 1 out of 10 devils possess a mutation piece. But for you to have 3 of them, that's something that's almost unbelievable to see. Ajuka commented. Nodding at it, he turned to Kuroka and Shizuka. Now then I think it's about time we do something that we've been waiting for. Where the 2 girls smiled. Naruto looked at his pieces as he muttered to himself. After a bit of debating, he picked up 2 of his pieces. Shizuka, you have a talent for herbs and medical potions. So I'm sure that you'll be great in using healing magic. Kuroka, you just keep getting stronger and stronger, especially since you told me that you're soon going to train in using senjutsu and yujutsu soon. So I believe that the bishop pieces are good for you too, since there are many requirements that I need for a good queen, which you 2 don't have. Naruto said. What do you mean by that? Shizuka asked. Well, you don't like to fight where the queen has to fight when it calls for Shizuka. Naruto remarked where she nodded. Well, Kuroka here, kinda doesn't act responsible enough for the job. Admitted the blonde. What? I'm responsible, Naya Kuroka implied with a pout. Then why do you leave your room in such a messy state? Naruto plainly said where Kuroka smiled dumbly at it as she blushed a bit in embarrassment since Lady Phenex has often scolded her about it too. Well, let's get this over since I know that Kuroka is going to cost more to revive as a bishop since you're just as strong as me. Where he gave Kuroka his mutated bishop piece while Shizuka would take the normal bishop piece. I, Naruto Phenex, command thee under my name for Kuroka and Shizuka to become my servant and lead a new life as my bishop. Naruto chanted. An orange-golden flame enveloped the 2 as the 2 bishop pieces merge into the 2 girls' bodies. Once the bishop pieces were absorbed into the girl's body, the flames died down where the Phoenix symbol was now inscribed to them. Alright, now you 2 are officially the first 2 pieces of my peerage. Congratulations, Naruto happily stated. Kuroka and Shizuka looked over themselves once they gathered their bearings where they can tell that they completely changed from what they were before. Before anything could be said, they heard Ajuka clapping at them. Not bad, Naruto. I can tell that you chose well on using both your bishops. It actually makes me wonder on what type of members you'll choose as your peerage. Ajuka stated as he was curious on who he'll choose for the other mutation pieces. Once it was done, Naruto and his new bishops peacefully left the Satan's laboratory, taking with him the rest of his evil pieces. Sensing that the children has left, Ajuka just sighed as he looked at the far end of the work area. Okay, you 2 can come out now, I'm pretty sure you can't sense them around. He stated. Walking out from the shadows, the Devil Lord, Surzich's Lucifer, and his queen, Graphia, came into the light. They casually made their way to Ajuka, who moved to another of his computer screens. Standing next to him, Surzich's looked at his best friend. "So are you rescanning his blood?" asked Aritid, getting the Satan's attention. "Yes, from the extra drops of blood that spilled over, I was able to get a proper amount for this. The results should be finished in a few moments." Ajuka answered as he looked back at his computer screen. "That's good. I'm very curious on how much Naruto's blood has been changing." Surzich's remark. Graphia looked at her husband. "Surzich-sama, why is it that you want Ajuka-sama to retest Naruto-sama's blood?" "I can understand, because he is not only Rias-sama's fiancé, his blood is the strongest healing factor in the Phenex family. Why is it that you want to retest it again after a few years?" questioned the silver hair queen. Surzich's simply smiled back at his queen. "Let's just say I've been having a gut feeling lately, a feeling that I hope won't cause any future problems." Where Graphia looked confused about his answer. It was around this moment that Ajuka's machine made some beeping sounds to inform them that it was finished beepizing the contents. Ajuka put his attention on his screen where he looked at the results of the test. Seeing the results, Ajuka spoke surprisingly. "Albi, looks like your gut is keener than your own senses." Where Surzich's and Graphia looked at the other Satan. Ajuka began to explain that Naruto's blood has changed from the last exam he took several years ago. Figuring that they were curious, Ajuka answered their curiosity by explaining to them on what he meant. Ajuka said that Naruto's blood has changed again, but differently. Even though his blood was demonic like theirs, Naruto's blood changed where not only demonic energy flowed deeply into him, but also small tiny particles of another type of energy along with it. It is completely surprising since every devil has a demonic energy with no traces of any other type of energy, except for those who have been reincarnated into devils, but still retain some of their abilities from their old lives. For Naruto to have, even if it's a small amount, was really unprecedented. "So, does this mean that Naruto-kun?" Surzich's spoke up after hearing Ajuka's explanation, but stopped as Ajuka answered back, "Yes, it's a possibility. Although, until we can test him further, then we won't know, since the chances of him actually being able to wield that power is still less than 1%. He responded. However, getting the two Satans' attention, it also means that Naruto-sama has less than a 1% of actually wielding that power. Graphia implied. Ajuka nodded, where all three looked at the screen with Naruto's newest test results as they thought on what Naruto's future was going to be. Morning. As the sun began to rise over the city of Kuo, the students of Kuo Academy were calmly walking in through the front entrance of the school, where they were preparing for another day of school and lessons. It was around this time that many of the academy students that were walking around the hallways took a moment to stop at the site that was also walking in the same hallways. Walking elegantly, the two most popular and beautiful school idols made their way to their classroom. The first one is considered to be the most beautiful woman to ever grace this school's floors. She was young in her late teens with light skin, blue-green eyes and a buxom figure. She wore the Academy Girls' school uniform, which consists of a white long-sleeved button-down shirt with a black ribbon on her shirt collar, worn under a black shoulder cape and matching button-down corset, a magenta skirt with white accents, and brown shoes over white crew-length socks. The idol's most defined feature would be her long crimson-red hair that reaches down to her thighs, with a single hair strand sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. The second was another young woman with a buxom figure who was the same age as the first. She had very long black hair and violet eyes. Her hair is tied in a long ponytail, reaching all the way down to her legs, with two strands sticking out from the top and sloping backwards, with an orange ribbon keeping it in place. She wore the same girl's uniform as the redhead girl, but she wore black knee-high socks. These two names are Rias Gremory and Akeno Himejima, also known throughout Kuo Academy as Kuo's two great ladies. As the students that were in front of the two ladies spread out to allow them to pass them while they gazed at their beauty and elegance, Rias kept her gentle smile poker face while thinking about her problem, her engagement to her fiancé, Riser Phenex. She remembered when she first heard of the new arrangement of becoming Riser's bride. It happened 4 years ago. She was back home in the underworld with her peerage, Akeno, Kaneko, and Kiba, preparing herself when she'll begin high school in the spring. Rias was very happy since her parents had allowed her to study in Japan since the beginning of their junior high school, with Sona Citri, who was also be attending in the same school under their new territory that they'll be responsible for, Kuo City. She had just finished training with Akeno and Kaneko, who were her training partners as Kiba was off training with his master, Surzich's knight, that she heard from one of the servants in the Gremory that they had visitors, where she decided to freshen herself up. Finishing preparing herself, she headed to the living room with Akeno behind her. Arriving at her destination, She was surprised to see that it was Lord and Lady Phenex of the Phoenix family with Rias at their side, who had a very pleasing look on his face. Announcing her presence, everyone greeted her where she asked on why the Phoenix family were visiting. Her father told her that he has some important news for her. At first, she happily spoke out if Naruto is returning to the underworld since he has been gone for nearly 4 years. Hearing Naruto's name, Rias sneered for a moment before he returned to his amused poker face. Lord Grimmery, however, explained to his daughter that there have been some changes in the marriage contract. Bafflingly asking on what the changes are, Rias stepped forward where he lifted her chin up as he said that he'll be her new fiancé. This was startling information where she demanded to know on why for the sudden change since she is promised to marry Naruto. Her mother explained that because, even though Naruto was a high-class devil from the Phoenix family, he technically doesn't count as a full Phoenix since he can't perform the demonic flame or immortality of the Phoenix family, which Rias pointed out. It was then that Rias calmly said to her that because Naruto lacked the quality on being a true Phoenix family member he suggested this change since he was a true Phoenix. Rias already understood the situation, which she guessed that Rias has snaked his way into becoming her fiancé since she knew that he never liked the decision in the first place where he always argued about it but has now found a way to make himself the groom for her. She had asked if they had talked to Naruto about it but found out that they can't find him since he stopped sending his letters to his family over 2 months ago, where it was then that Rias jumped into the conversation. Hearing this, Rias argued about it but heard her father that it has been finalized where once the time was right, she'll be marrying Rias instead of Naruto. Not wanting to be in the same room as them, Rias quickly left directly towards her room before anyone could stop her with a kendo right behind her. As she thought about it while going to class, she placed her hand on her chest while stopping at an open window, which she turned her head to look outside onto the sky as she felt the object around her neck. The object was a green crystal gem necklace, Shodai Hokage necklace design. The necklace around her neck represented not just a bond but also a promise to her. She remembered the day she got this necklace, the necklace she treasured with all her heart 8 years ago. Flashback. In the Grimmery family's castle, Rias was outside at the training ground watching the spar that was happening right in front of her. Standing beside her were Keno, Kaneko, Kuroka, and Shizuka, whom looked just intrigued on what was happening right in front of her. Naruto was standing on one side of the training field as he was gasping for air from his exhausted body. Currently, he was facing an opponent of legend, a member of Lucifer's peerage. Naruto's opponent was Beowulf, the descendant of the legendary Beowulf, who looked in his mid-20s with brown hair. Standing outside the training ground, Lord and Lady Grimmery watched with fascination while standing next to them was Serziches and Graphia. The reason on why he was sparring with Beowulf was because of a bet he made with Serziches. The bet was that if he wins, he'll be Graphia's servant for the week, while if he loses, he'll be a Serziches servant for the week. The only reason he did this was because of Serziches doting over Rias lately, where she wanted some privacy right now because she wanted to work with the boy she had rescued recently, a boy that he hasn't yet met with. Seeing that Rias wanted to have some time to herself, he made a bet with Serziches to keep him occupied. If Naruto lose, he'd be his servant for the week, so he'll be able to keep an eye on Serziches, so to be Rias' early alert system, so she can avoid him. If he won, Serziches would be Graphia's servant slave, where she'll be able to keep him busy with any work she has in mind. Naturally, Rias asked on why Naruto made such a bet, since he'll most likely lose, since Beowulf is one of the 5 top pawns in the underworld. Naruto simply answered. It's because I want to give you some freedom from you, brother. Hearing that Naruto was going that far so she can have some peace from her brother's doting, she smiled at it since he was willing to be a short-term slave for her. The bet would be if he can make a solid blow at Beowulf's face, who happened to be with them as well. Needless to say, the bet was intriguing where he agreed. Although Graphia made a point of argument about it, inside however she actually hoped that Naruto can succeed where she'll be in control of Serziches for the week and not just be in charge over him in their home. Although she wore the pants in the marriage, this would be more privately, since Serziches would have to do things around their home when he wasn't doing his Satan duties. The spar has lasted for 30 minutes where Naruto was just barely standing on his own 2 feet. So far that spar has been one-sided since Naruto was using everything he had. Beowulf had hardly put on a sweat since he hasn't really been serious and has only dealt blows strong enough to just knock Naruto out, but was surprised to see how much punishment Naruto could take. Breathing hard, Naruto decided to play his final trump card. Alright, time to put my training for the last 2 years in play. This is my newest technique, he stated. Naruto Shippuden asked. Emergence of talents. Holding his right hand out while standing in battle stance, he gathered his energy into the palm of his open hand. As he did, he concentrated clearly as a large amount of magical energy began to form into the palm of his hand. After taking a moment, the magical energy formed into an energy ball that is constantly rotating faster and stronger. At the sidelines, everyone was really looking with an intrigued expressions. Rias and the girls wondered on what the technique Naruto created is. But the adults, they can see that the technique was indeed truly amazing. The magical energy that Naruto gathered was the magical energy that was the complete basics for all magical techniques. The reason was amazing to them was because of the fact that Naruto has yet to change it to an element, since all magic, either demonic, yokai or any type of being, there has to be an element. Angels use the element of light like devils use the element in darkness, while using other elements with their power, such as Graphia using ice magic, or the angel Uriel with his holy flames. However, Naruto was using the basis of all magic, which was the intriguing part. Seeing his attack, they thought it looked like a miniature maelstrom, which fitted Naruto perfectly since it matched his name to a T. And once he was ready, Naruto prepared himself as he was only to get one shot at this. Beowulf also prepared himself where Naruto and he faced each other like the cowboys in the old western movie films. After a moment of intense waiting, Naruto and Beowulf ran towards each other, with Naruto having his attack ready. Using Shundo, Naruto zigzagged on the field where Beowulf saw that the blonde Phoenix was trying to confuse him again, where he intended to try and perform a last-second change to attack him from behind or his sides like he has been doing. Beowulf knew that it was the only chance Naruto has in order to actually landing a blow at his face. As he reached with Shundo, Naruto aimed for Beowulf's left, which his opponent threw a left hook to force him away, while still maintaining his balance to quickly avoid any counterattack. It was there that Naruto did something that surprised everyone. Avoiding the punch at the last possible second by swiftly rotating his body while charging up his void Shundo to quickly move around him. Beowulf sensed Naruto's power charging at his feet, where he gathered his senses at the possible place Naruto was going to swiftly sprint to. He didn't notice that Naruto's eyes weren't focused on Beowulf's blind spot, but at his arm. It was here that Naruto thrust his arm with his attack directly at Beowulf's forearm. The power of Naruto's attack, along with adding the momentum of Beowulf's attack, forced the punch to change from a straight to a hook where it continued on, making a direct punch at Beowulf's face, directly at his nose. Naruto Shippuden Uchiha. Everyone looked in complete silence and shock at what just happened. The girls were completely open-mouthed, except Kaneko, who still kept her usual momentum face, but had her eyes widen, as the shock at what they just saw. Lord and Lady Gremory were surprised to say the least, while Graphia had her eyes at the scene in front of her. Sasuke just looked with an intrigued look with widened eyes as he kept silent. Falling on his back, Naruto looked back to see that Beowulf's fist hit his face, where a bit of blood came down from his nose. "I knew that would work," the young blonde happily announced. As everyone wondered on what he meant, Naruto struggled to stand back up, where he looked content at what his actions just proved. Figuring their curiosity, Naruto explained on what he was aiming for. "I knew if I just continued to try and hit Beowulf's blind spot, he'll drop his guard for me to deliver the blow to his face." It was there that everyone got what he meant. Naruto purposely tried to hit Beowulf from his blind spot, since everyone knows that would be the only way to get him if they weren't seasoned fighters like Sasuke or Graphia. But that was just a diversion for his real plan. Letting Beowulf to believe that hitting him from behind, he fully expect for it to happen where he had his guard up at that moment. It was even more believable since Naruto prepared to jump for the other side, since they sensed his magical energy powering up in his feet. Taking the moment where he had a clear line of sight at Beowulf's left punch, Naruto thrust his attack at his arm, where the end result came to be. And with that I win the bet, since sometimes to beat an opponent is to sometimes use their own power against them, Naruto said, where he looked at Sasuke. Realizing at what Naruto look said, Sasuke knew that he was now, for the weak, Graphia's servant slave. With it was Naruto's victory. Rias ran up to Naruto, where she hugged him on how excellent his strategy was, since he performed several strategies that she would later use for her own peerage. Akeno, Kuroka and Shizuka also hugged him in congratulation, while Kaneko gave him a thumbs up. And Lord and Lady Gremory also congratulated him on well-fought spar and could see that choosing Naruto as Rias' fiancé was indeed a good and wise choice. With the congratulation over, Naruto looked at Sasuke and Graphia with a sly look on his face. "So, how would you dress Sasuke up, Graphia-san? Are you planning on letting him wear a butler's uniform? Or are you going to give him one of your maid outfits?" Naruto chuckled at the thought of Sasuke wearing one of Graphia's clothing. Everyone chuckled at it, where Sasuke thought out loud that he'll probably be given some light chorus for him to do. It was then that everyone heard the silver hair maid clearing her voice to get everyone's attention. "This is a list of chorus that must be done by the end of the week, Sasuke-sama," Graphia explained as she handed him a long list of chorus and duties, where Sasuke looked stunned surprised since the list dropped to floor. "Your butler uniform will be on your bed tomorrow morning. Work hard, Lord Sasuke, as I'll be expecting everything you have done." If incorrect, I will have to punish you later on. She finished explaining where she turned around to prepare for Surzich's work clothes. Surzich's looked speechless where he asked Grafia if she was joking or something, while the family looked at the scene. Beowulf apologized to Surzich's where he volunteered to help his king out with the chorus. As the situation continued to go on, Naruto looked at Rias where he asked her if he can talk to her alone about something. Rias led Naruto to an open patio in the garden where she wondered on what he wanted to talk to her about. Standing in the center, Naruto looked at Rias before he reached for something in his pocket. He pulled out a green crystal gem with a thread to act as the necklace. Rias looked at the gem which she admitted to herself that it looked lovely. Rias, I hope you accept this since this is a gem I found while I was training in my territory a while back. Of course it was a lot more, as twice the size of my fist. I used my wind magic to precisely cut several pieces out where I sculpted them into gems pieces for rings for Shizuka, Kuroka, Kaneko, Akeno, and Sona. But I made this necklace specifically for you. I hope you like it. Naruto said as he nervously gave it to her. Rias blushed at seeing that Naruto had specifically made this necklace just for her. Although she was a little ticked off on knowing that Naruto made rings for every one of their female friends' peerage members, she happily accepted it where she asked Naruto to place it around her neck. Taking out the necklace around her neck, she looked back at Naruto. So, Naruto-kun, why are you giving me this now? Is there something going on? Rias asked since she was curious on why Naruto would give her a necklace like this. Naruto looked a bit hesitant where he moved away from her as he looked out at the garden of flowers. He breathed deeply and sighed calmly. I'll be leaving the underworld soon, he casually said out loud. Rias looked dumbfounded. Alright then, how about I go with you, since I'm sure everyone would enjoy going somewhere fun. She said as she tried to figure out on where they could go together, along with Sarerg and such. However, Naruto looked at Rias with a serious look on his face. Rias, I'm not planning on leaving the underworld for a day or so. I'm leaving the underworld for a while in order to train and to look for my peerage members. He stated as he looked at Rias with a determined look. Rias' face changed into a depressing one as she walked to him. She wanted to speak to him about it, but Naruto stopped her from talking as he grasped at her hands. Rias, I know that you want me and everyone around. But in order for me to reach my dream, I have to move forward. Even if I have to leave all my friends and family for some time, then I'll do it. Naruto said. Rias directly looked at his eyes to see that Naruto's looked both determined and saddened at the fact that he was leaving. She guessed that Naruto really didn't want to go, but he wants to move forward and get stronger. Rias looked tear-eyed as she said to him, if you are leaving then make me a promise. Promise? Naruto replied. Promise me that you'll come back to me? Alright. Rias asked. I promise to come back in the spring of your senior year of high school. If that's alright with you, Rias? He asked a retreat girl. Looking upset, Rias looked at him where she said, okay, if you promise to come back around that time, then I'll be waiting for you. She answered, but Naruto could see that she didn't want him to go. Before he could say anything, Rias walked up to him and kissed his cheek where he blushed a bit from the gesture that she gave him. Then flashback. It was a month later that Naruto left the underworld, taking Kuroka and Shizuka with him, secretly leaving where he explained to his parents in a letter on why he left. But of course, it was during that month that Naruto's reputation in the underworld has increased drastically. The spar that happened between him and Beowulf was really something since Lord and Lady Gremory explained to not only the Phoenix family, but also other families from the remaining 34 pillars. Hearing that Naruto, the Phoenix's family's child with none of the immortality or flames, was able to injure Beowulf, Surzich's Lucifer's pawn, was considered to be a real achievement, especially for a 13-year-old. Of course, the bet he and Surzich's made was kept secret because of imaginary. Right now, it's been a month since the beginning of the spring term of her final year as a senior in Kuo Academy, and a lot has happened during that time. A few weeks ago, she had resurrected 2 new members to her peerage. The first was a young second-year student named Haidu Issei, her one and only pawn. He was a 17-year-old with brown hair and light brown eyes. He was also the new wielder of one of the 13 legendary Longinus, the sacred gear boosted gear. And finally, her final bishop piece, the newest arrival to Kuo, Asia Argento. She was a 15 to 16-year-old girl who is transferred into Kuo Academy as a second-year student who is in the same class as Issei. Asia has green eyes and long blonde hair that flows all the way down to her back, with split bangs over her forehead and a single strand sticking out from the top, sloping backwards. Asia was also the wielder of the sacred gear Twilight Healing, a powerful item that heals any type of injury. Along with getting her new peerage members up on devil activities, she had also, during that time, been waiting patiently for Naruto to appear again. Hoping to see Naruto waiting outside of the academy with his usual grin for her to come out. As she thought about it, Akeno, who was walking with her, noticed on how Rias was acting in front of her, where she saw her place her hand on her chest that held the crystal gem necklace that Naruto gave her years ago. Akeno, unconsciously, touched her left hand on a ring that was made out of the same crystal gem substance that Naruto had given both her and Rias. Akeno knew Ria's feelings for the flameless Phenex since she also had them as well, especially since he knew her secret about her parentage and yet he didn't care about it. Both the new members of Ria's peerage were in incidents that involved in being killed by fallen angels, but with Ria's and her peerage help, they were not only able to be resurrected as devils, but are now living a life that most people could only imagine. Asia was set up so that now she was living with Issei, who was happy to look after the young girl. Her thoughts about her newest family peerage members ended when she heard the class bell ringing, alerting her that class was about to start. She shook the thoughts out of her head for now, since she needed to focus on her problem that will be arriving later today. Rias has planned to skip her remaining classes after lunch to wait in the OR.C room because today is the day she'll be meeting with her annoying fiancé. 2 weeks later. In the mountain terrains just north of the town of Cherton, located on the Kalva River of Russia, a certain group were both enjoying the majestic sights of the land, as well as finishing up a training exercise that a certain blonde has set up. As the snow gently fell from the sky, several large explosions that were loud but wouldn't get anyone's attention was made, disturbing the peace of the land. Once the explosions had settled in the middle 5-meter crater, stood a young man. The young man was around his late teens to early 20s who was 5'10". He had blue sapphire eyes and wild spiky blonde hair, jaw-length bangs framing his face. Despite the freezing environment, he's wearing a short-sleeved black shirt under a blue Wrangler jacket, baggy blue jeans, and steel-toe shoes. In his right hand, he held a sword that looked well-crafted that had a blue gem just above the handle. Yu-Gi-Oh card. Noble Arms Excalibur. Outside of the crater stood 2 people as his opponents. The first was a beautiful young woman in her late teens, 18 or 19, around 5'8" who has vanilla blonde hair that is generally put up in a bun and violet eyes. She had a particularly large bust and has quite a defining curved body that was highlighted by her appearance in her armor with a fencing sword. Bust. 95, waist. 60, hip. 83. Wikifile Sylvia Van. The second was a young 16-year-old, 5'4" tall boy with short chestnut hair and large amber eyes. He wore green Chinese sorcery robes with white kung fu pants and black rubber sole kung fu shoes. In his hands, he held a Chinese Jan sword. Taking a moment, the blonde boy walked out of the crater that the 2 swordsmen have created in their attack where he looked impressed. "You two did a pretty well combination attack. If I didn't use my technique that would have hit me," said the blonde. "I thought we had you in that 4-way diversion that Sylvia set up for me to deliver the final blow," said the frustrated chestnut hair boy. "Well, sorry to disappoint you, Lee, but you forgot to count on the fact that I was able to use my technique in that way to avoid the hit. But I must say, you were really impressive there, Sylvia. I was surprised that you were able to create 4 after images in the same time like that while using your sword for 5 slashes attacks," said the blonde. "Thank you, Naruto-sama, however that is a move that I prefer not to use unless I have no choice since the precision, speed, and strength needed for me to execute it takes a lot of concentration and stamina," Sylvia remarked between breaths while holding onto her rapier sword. Naruto Phenex was here in Russia, training with his peerage to be ready to meet his family since after this week, he'll be returning back home to the underworld with his peerage. Right now, Naruto was training with his 2 knights in order to improve not only their speed, but also their defense and magical assault. While Naruto is with his knights, most of his peerage were doing their own personal training around the terrain. Just as they were about to continue with their conversation, the sudden sound of explosion and falling debris have been heard around them. Deciding to take a look, Naruto and his knights head their way to the sounds. Reaching another open area, the 3 people witness a sudden explosion that caused the snow around it to spread throughout the area where it covered them. Out of the explosion, one stood near the exploded area, while the second was now on top of one of the few boulders nearby, with his arms crossed. The one standing nearby the now-made crater was a teenage boy standing over 6'5" tall with dark skin. He is from Mexican descent with pronounced cheekbones and has wavy brown hair with bangs that generally hangs over his brown eyes. He is muscular while appear to be a bit older than he really is. He is currently wearing a baggy gray jeans with a short-sleeved shirt under a coat and steel-tip boots because of the snow. The second was another teenage boy standing at 5'7" tall. He wore a simple white training shirt, black sweatpants and sneakers. The most intriguing features about this boy was his unnatural canine-like features, including dog ears, hair, and sharp fangs. He has spiky, long brown hair that goes down to his mid-spine, tied up in a ponytail fashion with the rest of his hair being very spiked and a distinct fringe forming at his forehead with 2 visible bangs at the sides of his face. Before anything else happened, a couple of sly sounds were heard causing the canine-look boy to jump away since the boulder he was standing on was sliced diagonally down. Along with the slice, a crying sound was heard when someone else came flying down and landed clumsily in front of the group, covering themselves into the snow. After a moment or two, the person stood up to reveal that it was a blonde teenage girl that was covered in snow, and a few debris stood up, allowing the snow and debris to fall from them, but still had a bit of small snow patches on their head and shoulders. Uyuzum-chan, your veil attack is impossible to beat. Whined the young girl while trying to keep herself warm as she pouted at her opponent, who gracefully walked out into the opening to reveal a young brunette woman. Hey, don't whine at me. You said that you wanted me to fight you with everything I got and I did. You're the one who couldn't handle being around the snow, especially in the outfit you're wearing, Hakufu," said the young brunette. The blonde-hair girl was a young beautiful 18-year-old blonde with ample cleavage and green eyes. She has long flowing strawberry blonde hair that goes down all the way to her back, which also covers her ears. Her hair bangs also cover most of the middle of her forehead. 2 strands of hair also stick out on the top of her head. She wore a simple short-sleeve loose shirt with black tights. The brunette girl was a young well-endowed woman in her late teens with long dark brown hair and eyes, and a well-developed body figure. She is wearing a pure white silk, perfectly covering her private parts and limbs. She also had a long white veil that was 4 times longer than her body. Like you're one to talk, how come you're not shivering like I am? Hakufu stuttered out as she shivered from the chilling area before looking around her to see that everyone else is the same thing. Same with you guys. Why do you guys act like you're not cold? Asked with her teeth chattering. It's because of our magic, Hakufu. Didn't you listen to Naruto-kun when he explained on how to use your magic in creating a magical coat to protect us from the cold? Questioned the veiled girl. Hakufu thought for a moment before she blushed in embarrassment, unspoken outer answer to Uzum. Man, aren't you acting stupid? Uzum commented where Hakufu quickly shouted back at her. Hey, you're the stupid one. Those who call others stupid are the real stupid ones. Argued back. Before things could be said, they had a clapping sound to see that Naruto and everyone else was there. Alright girls, as much fun as seeing you guys barking at each other's throats. What do you say we call it a day since we need to get ready for our trip? After next week, I'll be back home. Will also be introducing all of you to my family. Naruto commented. Everyone nodded, which a few didn't like it since they know what's going to happen. Naruto explained to them that becoming members to his peerage, they'll be forced to study the history of the underworld, along with the history of their king's family history. Luckily, Naruto had already taught them the basics, but the thing that they mostly dread about was the fact that they'll be all given etiquette lessons for those who don't know proper manners. Just as they were about to go back to their temporary home, a magical teleportation circle with a phoenix crest appeared where a young woman with a voluptuous figure and long black hair suddenly appeared. The person is Kuroka, Naruto's bishop. In the past 8 years, Kuroka has grown from a young teen girl to a beautiful woman where Naruto sometimes couldn't help but not look at her with thoughts of lust and such sometimes. She still wore the same type of kimono, except it was altered more to fit her figure. The biggest change was her large breasts, which she shows off from her kimono opening up from her shoulders. Seeing appear in front of them, the Mexican person was the first to speak up. Kuroka, what wrong? Did anything happen? Said the tall man. Kuroka nodded her head as she made her way to Naruto. Naruto-kun, there's something I need to tell you. It's something that Shizu just found out from one of our contacts. Kuroka stated where Naruto leaned his ear to her. Whispering to him the information she just found out herself, Naruto's reaction changed from concern to confusion to finally, rage. Once he heard it, Naruto looked at Kuroka with a determined look in his eyes. When is this going to happen? Naruto asked his beautiful bishop. It's going to commence tomorrow night. Kuroka answered. Hearing this, Naruto told his group that he'll be right back where he walked away from his peerage. Everyone waited for 5 minutes before they both heard and felt a sudden explosion happen just where Naruto was. Everyone ran to it where they spotted Naruto in the middle of the field as debris and destroyed trees scattered throughout the area. Taking a couple of deep breaths, Naruto turned to his peerage. Alright then, get ready. You guys help Shizuka-chan and Yuuko-chan in getting everything ready since tomorrow, we're going to the underworld. It's time that I go back home and settle the issue with my brother. Naruto stated. Everyone can see that he was furious. They wondered on what got him so pissed off where Kuroka explained that she and Shizuka will tell them later. But now, they need to get ready. As they all head back, Naruto looked at the area for a moment before using his power to cease the flames, the few flames that appeared after his explosive power-up. Once he was done, he left, never knowing that he left one single small flame that still continued to burn. The flame itself would extinguish itself in a little bit, but the interesting thing is the flame itself. The flame had traits of darkness and light that seemed to both balance and chaotic at the same time. Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.